Despite the protocols put in place by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, restricting large gatherings, many Nigerians across the country celebrated Christmas and Boxing Day in breach of the guidelines aimed at stemming the spread of the virus. President Muhammadu Buhari last week had cancelled the annual official Christmas ceremony for religious and community leaders as the country fights off the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. The president also urged the public to comply with prescribed COVID-19 preventive measures during the holiday season. Yet, revelers were seen at bars, restaurants, and event centers with no regard for COVID-19 guidelines. Very few wore masks or maintained social distancing, while many churches and transporters exceeded the number of congregants and passengers stipulated by the Presidential Task Force and state governments. This came on the heels of the announcement by the Africa Center for Disease Control, CDC, on the emergence of a new variant of the novel coronavirus in Nigeria, but cautioned that more investigation was needed. If confirmed, Nigeria will be joining South Africa and the United Kingdom, which have been both required or which have both reported a more infectious variant of the coronavirus in their countries. Since the virus was first reported in February, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, as of Saturday night, had confirmed 1,247 COVID-19 related deaths, 83,576,000 infections, and 70,495 recoveries across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Well, I have with me in the studio Professor Bola Akinterinwa, former Director General of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, Professor Victor C. Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos, and also Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. Well, Prof, look, we're dealing with this issue of COVID-19, how we're dealing with it in Nigeria, the second strain, and all of that. And Yemi Adamolekun is also out there to deal with this problem. Professor Akinterinwa, I'll start with you. What do you think? Do you think we are handling it rightly? The Presidential Task Force has issued a number of directives. Persons who are traveling in from South Africa and also the United Kingdom, they have to follow certain protocols. And there are sanctions. For the first time, we're told that there will be strict sanctions in terms of visa being cancelled, PCR tests, if it's not taken within 7 to 10 days, the decision that will be taken by government. Where are we? And then, of course, the bigger problem of Nigerians still holding parties, going to clubs, doing what they are not supposed to do. Professor Akinterinwa, over to you.
The explanation you have given is what I will simply use as the answer. We talk about a celebration that is not only low-key, but low-key not in the context of respect for COVID-19 protocols. We are talking about people in Nigeria who completely disregarded face masks. They are not using it. They are not respecting social distancing. We have parties here and there, organized, holding everywhere. So if there's disregard for COVID-19 protocols, then how can we then say that the government is doing what is right? if government keeps quiet and we cannot visibly say that government is sanctioning those who are disrespecting the protocols, the disrespect simply means they are unnecessarily infecting others. When we talk about a new variant of COVID-19 in Nigeria, which we all believe that it is deadlier than what we experienced in the first wave, and it is not only deadlier, it transmitted quickly than the one we were used to, and its viral loading is said to be heavier, meaning now that the situational reality on ground is more precarious. In fact, we are challenged by a more inclement environment with this new variant of COVID-19. So the issue now, government is doing precisely what? If the government cannot sanction, cannot prevail on the people of Nigeria to comply with the rules, then the government cannot be said to be doing well at all.
Well, Prof, what you are saying is that we have had a low-key Christmas. Low-key Christmas in the sense that it's an unusual Christmas. Even the president himself more or less canceled Christmas. He said, look, on Christmas Day, he didn't want people to pay homage so that it will be seen that the president of Nigeria himself is showing the right example. But Professor Ariole, the people themselves, did they follow the cue of the president of Nigeria? Because we saw that in some of the markets, the people were out there, they were, shopping, they didn't respect the directives of government. What could have been responsible for that? Even academics who had said the strike had been cancelled. We also saw some academics being part of the jollofing and the entertainment group. Prof,
no, the problem,
are you guilty as
I can't really be guilty, but I remain on the part of the masses. Some people are a bit getting tired about COVID-19 protocols. And sometimes we know the African person, as they put, and even the current book of Woloshe Inka says it all, the happiest people on planet Earth, So somehow coming together seems to be the only relief they have within what have been imposed on them in terms of suffering, either by government design or by government weakness. And when you ask some people, they will tell you, it's sickness of the rich people, which means opening the land border without tracking people who come in from outside becomes an issue that government should really look into. Because I used to hear people who go to US or Britain being asked every now and then on their phone, what have they done about their, confinement? Are they feeling fine? Are they not feeling fine? They keep on monitoring them and telling them, look, they will come to them if they see any reason to come to them, and they will open the door to monitor whether they are observing what they are meant to observe, coming from the airport or from the land border. But we don't seem to see that in Nigeria, which is supposed to be the government work. I have seen up to 7, 8 people who came back from abroad as I'm talking. And I don't seem to see anything happening around them in terms of being checked or not being checked. Some even said they avoided filling the forms they were asked to fill so that they will be monitored. So it means that from the airport, they are already avoiding no control. So I get worried because they're only coming to, if at all there is infection, they're only coming to infect the poor people who possibly wouldn't have been infected if there hadn't been people coming in from outside, coming into Nigeria who possibly are asymptomatic or whatever, and affecting those who are very weak or whose immune system are so already put in fragile situation because of poor feeding and poor nutritional value we put into the African person
you
system.
See, Prof,
yeah.
Many reports have it that at the airport, the security agencies, immigration officers are only interested in the money
what they will collect. So
they don't bother about.
So this is the problem we are having in Nigeria. Okay. Certainly,
Professor Ariole, Professor Akinterinwa, I would like to bring into the conversation just for 1 minute, and I'll go back to her, Yemi Adamolekun. Yemi, thank you for joining us. Yemi, are you there with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, quickly. COVID-19, the dilemma we face, the second strain, the challenge here in Nigeria. What are our thoughts? Quickly, before we go on break.
Well, just really, I mean, the NCDC has done a great job in saying that we have to be personally responsible. And that is what I don't think I see. As you've said, people were partying, doing whatever they wanted to do. But I think just people need to realize that it's a deadly disease, and it is what it is. Government can do its best, but enforcement is a major challenge for those who are traveling in. And on that one, I don't think government has done enough. But really, on the part of ourselves, the fact that we're not obeying protocol, enforcement is weak, and that gives the results that we see these days.
Well, is that all you have to say on the subject? I mean, when I said just comment quickly, I didn't mean... Anyway, I'll come back to you, Yemi Adamolekun. Let's take a quick break here on this Live This Sunday talk show. When we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back to this Live This Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me, I have Professor Bola Akinterinwa, former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs and currently Director General Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. And of course, also here is Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor Victor C. Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, Yemi Adamolekun, I'm going to come to you straight away, but just be prepared. But let's take the next topic. Students in Nigeria are set to head back to their classrooms after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, suspended its strike, ending a protracted industrial action that started last March. Making this known last week, ASUU President Professor Biodun Ogunyemi said the decision to resume academic activities was based on the agreement reached with the federal government of Nigeria. He added that a committee had been set up to monitor the implementation of the agreement, but warned that if the government failed to fulfill its side of the bargain, ASUU will resume the strike. The current strike, which began on March 23rd, has seen students of government-owned universities lose the entire academic year to the long dispute between government and lecturers. Ogunyemi said it was also agreed that no ASUU member will suffer any loss of deserved benefits as a result of participation in the strike. Yemi, I would like to start with you. Well, the ASUU president is talking about timelines. He's saying if the timelines are not met, ASUU will go back on strike. What we know also is that NASU and SANU, other unions within the university system, are also threatening to go on strike. And yet, the National Universities Commission, the Nigerian Universities Commission, is saying that universities cannot resume by January 18. They have to wait because of COVID-19. Where are we with the university system in Nigeria? The public university system. What's your take? And if you want to make a comment on the topic that we started with, COVID-19 and compliance by Nigerians, you can take the two together.
Thank you. Sorry, I was being mindful of you saying I should respond quickly. I mean, the real thing I wanted to just highlight is the fact that we can't blame the majority of Nigerians for non-compliance, because they see it over and over in the actions of the elite, from the Nuhu Ribadu wedding to the whoever wedding. People who are in government officials, their children, their functions, they continue to consistently flout COVID protocols. So I think it's quite a bit to then turn around and saying that citizens in Nigeria are not obeying, they're not complying. So that's one part of it, the government saying one thing and then government officials doing something completely different. And then the second bit of it is just enforcement capacity. Professor Akinterinwa was talking about officials at the airport who are more interested in what they can get rather than ensuring that people fill out forms. So if people, out of selfishness, don't want to fill forms, and the officials at the airport who are meant to protect the rest of the population allow them to do that, that's why we have the problems that we have. So variants, more different strain, more aggressive strain, be that as it may, the fundamental issues over the last 9 months has not changed, which is the attitude of the elite to issues like this, and the attitude of Nigerians as well, when they just think that they can get away with it. And we continue to see. Luckily, we don't have as high numbers as the rest of the world. That's not to diminish those who have lost loved ones. However, I think that also gives us some false sense of safety, because as was expected before, we don't see dead bodies all across the streets of Nigeria. So people tend to think that they are invincible for whatever reason or not. So we all have a responsibility. We all have a part to play, and government and citizens. And now on to ASUU. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. For those who believe that ASUU's fight is just, I completely disagree. Again, my bias, I grew up on a university campus. So if lecturers in 2020 think that it makes sense to shut down a university for a whole academic year, and in that academic year, no thought whatsoever to how the world is changing in terms of learning, where the students will be in terms of global competitiveness, the resources and the facilities they have in the universities to enable them to compete both as lecturers and as institutions. There's nothing about their fight, in my opinion, absolutely nothing that's just. And I believe that the federal government literally needs to just cut off the ties to public institutions. Just let them be autonomous. Let them raise their monies, and let's focus on scholarships, loans, bursaries for students who will not be able to afford tertiary education otherwise. You cannot be charging, I don't know what it is, 50,000 naira, 35,000 naira for university education in 2020. What are you buying with 25,000 naira? When I speak at university campuses, I tell students, from the wig on your hair to the clothes you are wearing, you are worth more than the 4-year value of your education. So what does that communicate to you about what you are getting? So until we're serious, this is what we're going to continue to get. And I think really governments, and unfortunately the government that we have at this time has shown no innovation, no creativity in handling this. NUC needs to cut these universities loose. Let them raise their own money and pay salaries. Let them see how easy it is to run a university when you can't strike against yourself. Or you can hold federal government to ransom and say you're not going to teach unless they pay you this or pay you that. And yet you are watching the world pass you by. And you think that makes any sense?
Well, I mean, I get your point, Yemi Adamolekun. Now I come to you, Professor Ariole. What are your thoughts on this subject?
Well, like said, you see, the amount students pays, which is not necessarily tuition fee, and is below 50,000, is the issue in contention here. ASUU is trying to make sure that over 3 million students in Nigerian public universities, both state and federal, not private universities, are a bit enjoying what it takes to claim that government is responsible. That's all ASUU is trying to force the government into. and a government that wants development, and everybody knows that the engine of development of any nation is education. And you can't leave that in the private hands. And today, we have 50-50 private universities and 50% government, that state and federal, in the 174 universities we have for now in Nigeria. And we can see that what goes on in the private universities has nothing to write home about. The competitiveness of the private universities cannot be said to be valuable for a global competition. Competitively, the Nigerian student, when he graduates, I don't think he can really face the world competition in terms of what he can offer knowledge-wise. And so it's still the job of government to see how best to bring out Nigerians to be able to face the global challenges. And if government decides to renege in its responsibility, which is to bring up the youth that will take up tomorrow's responsibility in paying even the overburdened debt they have already given to the society, then there will be problem. That's what ASUU is basically fighting for, because the salary being paid for a professor, for example, that is not even up to $1,000 a month, it's like the professor himself is subsidizing his salary to see that Nigerian development moves faster by helping the poor people to come to the university.
Professor Ariole,
but it's not, government does not seem to see that way.
You are a member of ASUU.
Yes, I'm a member.
Yes, you are on the faculty.
I have not got any salary.
You are on the faculty.
It's part of the problem.
You are on the faculty at the University of Lagos,
yes,
as a professor of French and Francophone studies.
Agree.
So people may think that you are biased.
No, I'm not completely biased.
No, don't qualify.
Yes.
People raise questions. They say there are other issues that ASUU is not talking about.
Like what?
Corruption in the management of the university system, and then rape and sexual harassment.
No, but
within the system.
Corruption is still government that's supposed to bring the visitation panel every 5 years.
Okay, Prof.
For almost 15 years,
yes,
government has failed.
We'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Welcome back to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akinterinwa, Director General, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Well, I should say former Director General, and now he's currently Director General, Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Also with me, I have Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor Victor C. Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos here in Nigeria. Well, we've been talking about, critical issues, and also Professor Akinterinwa, you were going to say something, and I asked you to wait. So now is your opportunity to talk about ASUU. ASUU going on strike, ASUU suspending strike. You and Professor Ariole, you are ASUU members, more or less. And I told Professor Ariole that he's biased because he's a professor at the University of Lagos.
Yeah,
but Prof, what do you have to say about those issues that Nigerians raise, about rape and sexual harassment, and also about corruption within the university system? It's not enough for ASUU to just come and say, okay, we want revitalization, we want issues with state universities to be addressed, proliferation of universities, visitation panel, and what was the other issue they were raising also? And academic allowances, agreement in 2009, memorandum of action in 2014.
And visitation panel also.
Visitation panel also. But Nigerians are saying, where is the issue about rape and sexual harassment? Where is the issue also about corruption within the university system, which many pro-chancellors are pointed to, including Wale Babalakin, famously at the University of Lagos?
Well, let's look at
quickly.
Let's look at the issue at three levels. The first level is what I will call the level of Yemi, our own chief executive of Enough is Enough. The second level is that of Professor Ariole. And then the third one, let me see, respond to your issue. There is one good logic in the point raised by Yemi Adamolekun, who grew up in the campus and is trying to give us...
Whose father is one of the leading professors of public administration in Nigeria.
That is Professor
and maybe
Adamolekun.
Worldwide.
Yes, we know. When university used to be university, when we talk about the Olontimeins, Adamolekun, all these people in Ife, all right, the period she grew up now can no longer be likened to the situational reality of today. And that is where I agree with her to disagree on the prescription. She strongly believes that if you allow the universities to generate self-funding, etc. along, they will certainly know how difficult it is, all right, to raise funds, to acquire resources. She even argued, probably rightly too, that yes, if you want to go on strike and you are the one generating funds for yourselves, it will be difficult. So, by implication, she's suggesting that one way of containing, of preventing, of nipping in the bud these strikes is, we give them the freedom to raise funds for themselves. But the problem is quite different from what Professor Yemi, the ASUU leader, has made us to understand. He likened, for instance, his university of his dream to the period of 1970s, where he drew attention to what obtains in Germany, in France, where education is free. Actually, you just pay for tuition and life is made easy. He's not against that. We have a Professor Ariole who is talking about competitiveness. Professor Yemi raised the critical example that, look, Nigeria, in terms of nuclear physics, if, for instance, we want to develop technologically, and we are focusing attention on that if the government does not provide a good environment, there is not much that could be done. So, in essence, what we are talking about is not all these issues. You talk about rape, you talk about corruption. All these issues are bound.
Internal processes of regulating those things.
She mentioned that.
So it's not.
No, Professor Ariole, that's what I expect you to say.
No, there are internal processes.
They have.
I have chaired even within Unilag up to 3 committees that have really sacked people without even overblowing it.
Yeah, but people are saying even ASUU members have issues.
No, which issues do we have? When we are telling government to go and do visitation panel, is that ASUU that will go for visitation panel?
I am a retiree. I'm not a member of ASUU. I've never been a member of ASUU. I was in this Institute of International Affairs, freedom of all those things. But we always support, objectivity of purpose. And by so doing, I support ASUU. What they are all asking for is, look, empower the university to compete at different levels. Quality of education is a function of quality of scholars. It's a function of quality of students that are there. It's a quality of environmental conditionings.
Well, Prof,
and all these things, they are not...
I'm very sure that parents don't have a problem with that. I mean, Nigerians want a situation whereby the quality of education in Nigeria will be upgraded, particularly within the public university system.
Exactly.
What they are concerned about is transparency and accountability within the university system, so that university teachers, Professor Ariole's colleagues, will not be dragging and intimidating people's daughters, dragging them into their offices and molesting them.
Ignorance is what people are seeing in that area.
And there will be no corruption within the university.
The system in the university does not easily give in to corruption.
I'm telling you, it doesn't.
Not. The mechanism
people don't understand.
Is there. You see, what is happening is that Everybody is trying to bring politicization into the university system.
Let us hope that the federal government of Nigeria, through the negotiator Dr. Chris Ngige, will fulfill the promises and the agreements that have been placed before ASUU. And now we have on the wings NASU and SANU, who are also saying that the Nigerian government needs to address certain issues. Let's take the next subject. In a move certain to attract criticism, the National Assembly Joint Committee on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has recommended the inclusion of a clause in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that will grant voting rights to underage married girls in Nigeria. The committee had made the recommendation to a technical committee that will work on the amendment bill proposed by the federal lawmakers, even though the Constitution currently places the eligible age for voting at 18. This comes 2 weeks after some stakeholders made a similar recommendation. Senator Kabiru Gaya, chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, who spoke at the inauguration of the technical committee in Abuja, stated that the recommendation was based on a unanimous decision taken by the joint panel. The marriage of underage girls is a phenomenon that remains prevalent among Muslim adherents in northern Nigeria. Should the clause see the day of light, Nigeria will be going against the grain of countries like Saudi Arabia, which just last week issued a memorandum to courts and marriage officials in that country to refrain from concluding marriages for persons under the age of 18. Yemi, this is a natural subject for you. I'd like to come to you. What do you think? This obviously is unconstitutional, and yet our lawmakers are trying to review, revise, amend the Constitution.
Well, I don't know why it should be natural for me. There are two gentlemen sitting there, including you. I'm sure you have daughters. So why don't we flip it a little bit? Would you, first of all, should your daughters under 18 be getting married? And number two, once they're not married, suddenly gives them the maturity and development capacity to be able to exercise a vote, which I would put back there. But before we go there, I think I just wanted to add a quick comment to the ASUU issue. No one is disputing what some of these other surrounding challenges might be. But I think the priority that's not put in terms of quality, not of the education that our students are receiving, then the outputs that we then have, who are the people that go on to work in the private sector and in the public sector, and what that means for development. Now, yes, the government should provide an enabling environment, but why is tertiary education any different from primary or secondary or business? What enabling environment is our government providing? But young people who are given access to the internet, for example, are able to create and do amazing things: fashion, entertainment, film and art. All the sectors that we have in Nigeria that are doing well, both locally and internationally, it's not because government provided an enabling environment. It's because Nigerians took what they had and work. Now, to shut down universities, you are not enabling, which was my point. If government and this focus on government doing A, B, C, or D, and run so they can then compete globally and within Nigeria. Lastly, I wanted to end on private universities. The only university that's doing anything on COVID, sequencing COVID strains and all that, is a private university in Ede. Thankfully, a faith-based university. I'm quite proud to say Redeemers University. So all the faith-based universities that get a lot of flack for not doing anything, but it's fantastic. But it's a private university that is able to function. During COVID, it is functioning and sequencing strains. Our public universities are closed. How would they be able to sequence any strains? How would they be able to sequence any strains? So I think we need to be very clear about what is being asked and what is at stake. The government cannot, because they've consistently shown they're not interested in doing it. So how many more strikes do we think is suddenly going to make the federal government of Nigeria wake up and be like, oh, university education is so important. Let's have a plan. Let's stop setting up universities in the middle of nowhere with no faculty, no resources, no buildings, and say, oh, we want university. They're not taking it seriously. So anyway, that's ASUU. What did you ask me again? Underage. So the nature of it. Sorry, underage voting. The three of you, I don't know why you're flipping it at me because I'm the only female. The three of you want your daughters, one, marrying under 18. And as you said, it's against the Constitution. So I really don't know. Again, it shows that our lawmakers are on a different planet, focusing on completely different things. What real issues to deal with? Everybody that's listening to me, if you're in Nigeria, go to shineyoureye.org, find out who your representative is and call them and ask them, are you thinking? Are you representing me properly? This is not why I sent you to Abuja. Please get with the program. Thank you.
Yes, Professor Ariole, over to you.
You see,
underage voting.
It borders also in education. You see, people don't seem to see reality in life. When you want somebody to marry before she's 18, rather, it means you don't have any provision for the person educating herself or having education that will help her further the best interests of the society she's in. We all hear that all over the world, they say train a lady or train a girl, and you train the whole nation. What is Nigeria doing by asking their girls to be interested in getting married and then coming to vote? Somebody who has no right to question the man that married or is marrying her. Which right has such a person to come out to come and vote that will affect the whole nation? These are issues our people in the National Assembly should be looking at. Now, the language is, the girl is betrothed to you. If it's betrothed to you, which means it's still under your care, it's still under your privileges to do whatever you want to do with her, which means you are not even supposed to allow her to come to the public glare for either voting or whatever. You still have to keep her inside your own custody till when you are ready to allow her to come out to the public for public show. As far as I'm concerned, in any girl that is below 18, and the university age is 16, so you make plan for the person to be educated at least up to 16-year-old person and be able to contribute to the society is in before you start impregnating her to have children all over the places and adding to the population we are crying about that is excess already based on what we can produce or what we can do to ourselves. So National Assembly trying to ask underage girls that are supposed to be under the custody of a man and not supposed to be seen publicly for now till he's able to decide his or to be able to decide her fate should be what should matter to them. How is the man able to take care of the girl till the girl is able to come out to the public to do her own bidding of developing the nation?
Well, Professor Akinterinwa, I think what we're dealing with here is a conflict of laws. Two systems, two legal systems, as it were, in Nigeria. Now, under the penal code, there's a different stipulation for the age of consent. And all of that, you can also link to the Child Rights Act, the Children and Young Persons Law, and also the Child Rights Act in Nigeria. In different parts of Nigeria, different codes are applicable with regard to the age of consent, the age of relevance. Now, what exactly is the problem? Shouldn't we have a unified legal system whereby all of us can say, look, the age of consent is 18, as prescribed by the Constitution, and that no part of the country can say, oh, if you are 12 years and you are married, if you are 7 years and you are married under cultural regulations, then you can get married and vote.
You see, let me address the problematic from the perspective of international law. That's what we call the principle of peremptory norm of international law. What does that mean? It simply means this is a law that cannot be abrogated by any member state of the international community. It is believed to be the law of laws. In the context of Nigeria, what is synonymous, what is equivalent to this peremptory norm is the Constitution of Nigeria. It is a law, all right, to which all other rules, circulars, circles, whatever law is made in any constitutive state of Nigeria or by any House of Assembly cannot override Nigeria's constitution. So Nigeria's constitution is above all these distinctions you have made. And what's the provision of Nigeria's constitution on this matter? It talks about 18 years. Now, 18 years simply means that, look, if any House of Representative members, any senator in the National Assembly is coming up with a suggestion that under 18-year-old girls, married or not married, to be allowed to vote, for instance, to have suffrage. No, I think they are unnecessarily now undermining Nigeria's constitution. And under no circumstance can any other law, whether it's Sharia law or whatever one you may want to have in mind, to override that. The Constitution provides for secularity, it's clear, but the Constitution does not allow an under 18-year-old person to do what they are now trying to prescribe. I think that something is fundamentally wrong with all those who say they are members of House of Representatives or members of the Senate by now trying to come up with a bill without having already proposed a bill to amend the Constitution before proposing that. That is an abuse. And I cannot understand that. The implication of this is that in the general public, people believe that under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, it has always been more of lawlessness. At a point in time, rule of law will be subjugated to
security reasons.
National security arguments. At another level, the Constitution says that the Senate must approve any nomination or appointment by the President. The President doesn't bother. We have someone who has been there since 2015, 2016.
We need to move on. You are quite correct. The age of consent under the Nigerian Constitution and the Child Rights Act, which has been ratified by 24 states of the Federation, is 18.
Yes, it's 18.
Not 11.
Not 11.
As at 2017 or 2007, it was 11. But what the Constitution of Nigeria says is that it is 18. And I think it's unfortunate, it is scandalous, it is embarrassing that any lawmaker will stand in Parliament and say any girl that is under 18 can vote in Nigeria.
Nigerian people should begin.
That's a throwback to the penal code.
Yeah, yes.
You know, and the issue is not about religion
demonstrate against these parliamentarians.
Or culture. So Nigerians have a right to say it is unacceptable. We must respect the rule of law. Let's take one more topic very quickly. The European Union and Great Britain were able to bridge their differences in the nick of time last week and reach a post-Brexit trade agreement just days before the end of the transition period. Negotiators from the European Union and United Kingdom had worked through the night and right into Christmas Eve to put the finishing touches on an agreement that has potentially averted a chaotic economic break between the two sides on New Year's Day. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said it was a deal that enabled Britain to take back control of its affairs while avoiding trade barriers against its goods and services. The EU, on the other hand, said it had worked to protect the interests of its members. Let's take a listen.
We have to accept that this vaccine...
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. So we have finally found an agreement. It was a long and winding road, but we have got a good deal to show for it. It is fair, it is a balanced deal, and it is the right and responsible thing to do for both sides. Les négociations ont été très difficiles.
The negotiations were very difficult with lots at stake for many, and it was an agreement worth fighting for. It will allow us to avoid major disruptions to workers, businesses and travelers after January 1st. It will protect European interests, and his agreement is also, I believe, in the interests of the United Kingdom. It will lay solid foundations for a new start with long-time friends, and finally it will ensure we can leave Brexit behind us. Europe continues to move forward.
Nami de longue date.
I'm very pleased to tell you this afternoon that we have completed the biggest trade deal yet, worth £660 billion a year, a comprehensive Canada-style free trade deal between the UK and the EU, a deal that will protect jobs across this country, a deal that will allow goods, UK goods and components to be sold without tariffs and without quotas in the EU market, a deal which will, if anything, allow our companies and our exporters to do even more business with our European friends, and yet which achieves something that the people of this country instinctively knew was.
Okay, I've been looking for an opportunity to unpack this, to comment on the key issues: tariffs, professional qualifications, transport services, television services, fisheries, state aid, standards or level playing field, rules of origin, all those big issues, dispute resolution, but we don't have enough time. But what we know is that the SNP, the Scottish National Party, is saying that when the matter comes to the House of Commons, they may vote differently. And then it will be interesting to see what the European Parliament decides, because all of this will have to be ratified. Not enough time to deconstruct this subject. But Professor Akinterinwa, you have 2 minutes just to help us touch on some of those issues.
Yeah, I think all these issues are quite interesting. If you listen to the President of the European Union Commission, who initially spoke in French, he said, les négociations ont été difficiles. That is,
very difficult negotiations.
Precisely. In diplomatic language, it tells a lot. It means the agreement itself is difficult. It's more or less of a compromise. So, in this type of compromise, what you will expect? Truly, at the level of the European Union, the agreement has only been signed. It is yet to be ratified.
Yeah,
but at the level,
because all the 27 member states have to take a decision.
Yes, at the national
then the
level.
House of Commons and the European Parliament.
And then come back to the European Parliament. The implication of that is that push forward or backward, we are now talking about a post-Brexit deal era. The UK is no longer, with effect from 11 p.m. December 31, a member of the UK. January 2020, Brexit transition period began. And we are now witnessing the final end, the ultimate end. So what will now happen eventually with the deal, particularly trade deal, which enabled the UK to achieve $893 US deal. The issue of fisheries, you know, these 200 economic zone, etc., which has always been a source of controversy. All these will still be there because, as you rightly pointed out, transportation. People who are from Belgium, Netherlands, residing in the UK, now we now have to re-strategize, either ask for nationalization, okay, or you apply for resident permit because they are now strangers.
Well, that
so in this case,
to mobility and the freedom of movement,
precisely,
and also to professional qualifications. With transport services, advantage United Kingdom. But when you talk of TV services, disadvantage the United Kingdom. Fisheries. The UK will now move out of the common fisheries policy, and that will be negotiated over the next 5 years. So it's win some, lose some
exactly.
for the United Kingdom. But what we note is that Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission chairperson, was not so enthusiastic, because the EU doesn't want to encourage other countries to leave the Union. But let us see how it all works out. We're interested in what goes on in Europe on this channel, and we monitor it closely. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from our entire team here in Lagos. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week, next Sunday, next year. And we will leave you right now with Arise Report, Africa in the year 2020, a year many consider annus horribilis.